Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a practice session for round 4 of the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship Season 2 with Kia Optimas here at Okayama International Circuit. The main championship race is going to be on the 23rd of August 2020, but in the meantime, these drivers are getting as much practice as they can. With me right now is, of course, as always, our director, Carol Alam, who has a special little device on screen right now.
Yeah, today we're testing out Oregon Engineering's broadcast box. It's a custom-made 3D printed actually as USB button box actually, but with multiple functions like toggles and dials and analog controls. So any comments you're gonna ask, just shoot away in the comment section.
Absolutely. Do let us know in the comment section if you have a question for Carol Alang and his wonderful new broadcasting device courtesy of Oregon Engineering. This is a bit of a test run for that bit of kit and a little bit of a behind the scenes to see what goes on during the course of a broadcast. As you can see there, he's switching out different elements in the UI and using the camera controls, all the rest of the stuff. So a special thanks to Oregon Engineering for cooking this one up. And of course, if you guys want to know more or might be just a little bit interested, do look up Oregon Engineering and give them a shout. Tell them that we sent you. So now we're just into the last few minutes of the practice, about 12 minutes left in the practice session. We've got 14 cars, I believe, who have set a time in practice, and right now Afizul Jai is one of the quickest drivers out there, followed by Saif Arifin, and this man here, Teku Irshad, is in 3rd position, Ilham Plabi in 4th, Eddie Adrian in 5th, Sharon Norfudin in 6th, Afiq Fadlan in 7th, followed by Faiz, Jazri, Lloyd, Mohaimin, Hath, Virus, and Azla. Lachlan there, our resident Australian, going out and trying to improve his pace. But this is going to be absolutely critical for the drivers to get just a little bit of fuel information and some general idea as to how hard they can push these little Kias around this Okayama circuit.
Gonna be a hectic week today. This week, we'll see 2 events back to back.
Absolutely. We've got our usual Adrenaline Impact iRacing Malaysia Championship, and we also have a very special race this Saturday, I do believe, the Merdeka SG55 National Day Special between the SRE guys that make up the majority of the field here at the Adrenaline Impact iRacing Championship, as well as the Sim Racers Asia community, which have drivers from all across Asia, based in Singapore. That particular group of people have been absolutely fantastic. They've had a lot of experience in operating and running races. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting race in GT3 cars, no less. And of course, we do have, I suppose it might not be as much of a secret as it was when we started the season, but we do have a special round 5 for all of the drivers out there, held at the legendary Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and there's going to be a little bit of a surprise with that, with multiple drivers sharing a car.
Yeah, it's gonna be a new experience for most of the guys in the AIMC. I think half of them, more than half, haven't tried team driving yet. So for us, organizer, we had covered a few events, official events before. I hope they will understand quick. So that's why we're doing test events quite a number of times, almost every day for next week.
Absolutely, and Yeah, it's going to be really very interesting indeed. Even though in Malaysia this sort of 45-minute race really can be considered as a bit of an endurance race by some, but this Spa event will be a real endurance race with team driving, and it's going to be very, very exciting indeed for all the drivers involved in that race. I believe it's 2.4 hours, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, close to 2 hours and 24 minutes.
Yep, just next best thing after a 24-hour race. We are not going to be staying up that long.
Only 10% of it.
Yeah, so precisely 10% of a 24-hour endurance race, but nevertheless it's going to be a very, very fun race indeed. Still a thanks to Ross Cass up there, who's shared the stream and liked the video, so a special thank you to you. We've got a few tweaks in this new lobby format. We've got the likes and shares up at the top of the stream, just like all those famous Twitch streamers do nowadays, so we can thank the guys that are kind enough to come over and share the sim racing love. And if you have any comments on that fantastic device that Karalang is using right now on the race or the racetrack, do leave a comment down below and we'll try and get to it as soon as possible. And whilst you're there, you have an opportunity to get your name up in the banner up there. And yeah,
There's
like
2 roast cars. Thank you very much. I hope there's a third one.
Well, if we find a third Roscas, I think we can have a Roscas club happening up there.
Or even a Team Roscas.
Yeah. Why not? Let's get all the Rosses into the same team, and could really give me, Wayhan, and Kelvin a real job in trying to tell you guys apart. But thanks nevertheless to that. Like, follow and share if you like to see your name right up at the top of the screen. So meanwhile, we still have a Visual Jai, who's very quick indeed up the front of the field. He's definitely improved by quite a lot. He's in fact faster than Cypher Orifin, who is usually the quickest one in terms of 1 lap pace around here. Irshad as well, very high up, beating Ilham Halabi as well. And Eddie Adrian, our rookie of the season, in the previous season, he is doing very well to be up there in 5th position. Saran Orifudin in 6th, Mohammed in 7th, Aslan 8th, and Afiq was 9th, just dropped back to 10th position as one of the drivers has gone just a little bit quicker. Calvin Ha gets it sideways, and as spins go at that corner, he's very lucky to get away with that without too much damage. Some of you guys who perhaps have remembered the previous season's race here at Okayama in the MX-5 cars perhaps remember the rather entertaining image of Calvin Ha parallel to the ground, but absolutely and utterly upside down in the MX-5 car in the opening stages of the race there. So perhaps a little bit nervous around that section. Of course, that is the beauty of sim racing. It hurts quite a lot less when you get it wrong in a sim race compared to a real life motor racing event. As we all know, even though we've had major strides in safety when it comes to circuit racing, it is still a dangerous sport. So perhaps one way of mitigating the risk is to try and do all of the practice in sims. I know a lot of drivers who use it as a very important tool to learn tracks and to try and get that muscle memory down. And just like Michel and quite a few of the other guys have done over the course of the previous 5 or 6 years, they've really come to use the sim as an integral part of being a professional racing driver. Ilham Halabi there, he's in 5th, perhaps just working on a little bit of fuel calculations, and perhaps a little bit of tyre wear monitoring. This track, very stop and start, could be one that would favour the fuel-efficient drivers. Ilham Labi quite famously tried to go all the way in the previous season here, back when we had no requirement for pit stops, and he almost made it in the MX-5 car. And yeah, so it's going to be an absolutely interesting to see what he pulls out of the bag this time around. Eddie Adrian there, he's down in 6th position in car 666. Hopefully not too ominous there. And yeah, he's going to come around to the back half of the circuit in the final 2 corners at this wonderful circuit. It was opened with bearing the name T.I. Aida, and it was built by Tanaka International as a sort of a resort for racing. So a racing resort concept, but within a couple of years the company decided that they would like to steal a little bit of thunder from Suzuka and Fuji, and they wanted to run a Formula 1 race around here. But unlike most harebrained schemes, they did in fact manage to do that. In 1994 and 1995, Michael Schumacher won both of the races that were held here. The Pacific Grand Prix, which was held here back when it was called TI Aida Circuit. So technically a Grand Prix course, albeit one that was not on the calendar for that long. And after the track was sold, it became Okayama International Circuit, named of course after the Okayama region which it sits in. So a very, very nice region indeed, famous for its lush vegetation and its many bathhouses and springs. I can even do tourism now.
So this track is it still in service?
Yes, absolutely it is. It is a part of the Super GT Championship, also used in Super Taikyu, and until very recently, I have to check my notes again, but it was also used as a Super Formula or Formula Nippon track. And it's used to get a lot of international racing. Doesn't quite get as much nowadays, but I believe the WTCC has in fact visited this track on a number of occasions. Not so much bike racing happens here, but it does happen, and I believe there is a round of the Japanese Road Racing Championship held here as well. So still an active racetrack, and of course the original idea of it being used as a racing resort is still in full swing. This is a very touristy part of the country, so there are quite a few drivers who choose to keep their cars here for track days and club events. I mean, it does go. Yes, Tunkuisha there in the Dante's Tora Motorsport machine. Really doing quite well for himself there. He more than held his own in the practice or warm-up race for the Merdeka Day Special, and he's looking to have a good result there as well as here as we wind down the minutes to the end of practice. But yeah, it does explain a lot about this track when you realise that this place was designed to be more European than Japanese. The layout doesn't really look that much like any other Japanese track you've ever seen. It looks more like a European autodrome, which is what it was designed to be run for. Aslan up there sampling its first corner, which is designed to be very similar to the first corner at Estoril. A lot of the corners here sort of lifted from other tracks. So now at the end of practice, Afizul Jai has the quickest lap time, but we'll see who is really going to be on the ball during the qualifying session. That's when one lap pace is really going to be important. We're waiting for the drivers to head out and start their sort of warm-up laps there. So there you go, track length 3.6 kilometers. The temperature very warm this time round, and yeah, it looks like apart from that, the air temperature is fairly cool, and it looks to be a rather humid but pleasant day nevertheless. How's that broadcast box holding up, Pero?
It's doing good so far, but I'm getting glitches from SDK. I don't know why.
At this point, probably more SDK than the box itself, to be fair. It looks quite good.
But okay, I'm wondering why it's colorful right now. Maybe it's color coded.
Perhaps.
This is new. I don't know. I didn't reset anything today. Is it according to car color? I don't think so.
No, it doesn't look like it, although it could be, because the way the liveries work here, for those of you, ladies and gentlemen, who have just joined us, like Nevsky Chin and as for Abbas, thanks a lot for that, and we have managed to like ourselves. So thanks to ourselves for liking ourselves. We're not that vain. It's perhaps another one of our members of staff checking the stream out there. But now we're going to start having a look at some qualifying laps. It looks like Afizul Jai was very quick on his out lap, so he might be able to do something quite good around this timed lap. Yeah, as usual, I suppose SDK does like to give us leave us with a couple of surprises just to keep us on our toes there. As we see Aslan go through these fast S's and coming up onto the back straight. To be very careful with the throttle coming out of here. It could be very easy to get on the throttle early and scrub a lot of speed there. Calvin Ha is the first driver to set a lap time 144.344. He'll be doing much quicker than that, I am sure, on his second attempt. Now coming into this braking zone here, we've seen some absolutely amazing overtaking maneuvers coming into this corner there.
Let's switch over to Afizul Jai.
Meanwhile, we see Afizul Jai further on the lap in the last few corners, the last three corners in fact. This end of the circuit sort of reminds me of the original Catalonia layout with the fast final sector. And just with that layout of the circuit in Catalonia, you really have to maximize the curve as you saw him do there, and really push the car as hard as he can to try and get around corner smoothly. Afizul Jai manages a 136.738, so perhaps the time to beat the time for Bob might end up being a 136.5, or maybe even quicker than that. In the long-running series of what is Max Palmer drinking. Behind the mic this time around, it's Monster Energy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Sponsorship available.
You might put up a camera just for the drink.
Yeah. Not for me. Just a drink. Like I say, I've had this little. It's sort of almost a layperson indication as to how exciting the race has been. If I have gone through my drink, if I finish my drink before the halfway point of the race, that really goes to show that this is a very exciting race indeed, because when I get excited, I do get dehydrated. Meanwhile, Lloyd Lachlan coming up towards the end there. Eddie Adrian, very quick time, lap time out there, 136.6. He's perhaps only 1 or 2 tenths off the ultimate pace around this track. It is very hot. the track surface right now, 56 degrees Celsius, which will really be taxing for the drivers, the cars, and the tires. Perhaps
Okay, I need to reload the overlay, just a minute.
Alrighty.
Just see.
There we go.
Okay, I think we're back to
Back to standard.
yeah.
So like I was saying earlier on, for those of you who just joined us, the way the liveries, these custom liveries work is through a plugin to iRace called Trading Paints, and that replaces any stock liveries with the liveries you see on screen right now, so displaying the teams and all the rest of it. So that's perhaps why those color codings didn't really match up to the cars, because certain elements of the UI would still register the livery that's underneath the car, as opposed to the actual livery that you see at home. But speaking of liveries, it's definitely wonderful to see that all the teams have their unique liveries set up. The series definitely looking more and more professional as the day goes on. We're a third of the way through qualifying, and Mohammed Naheim in there, not quite quick enough to improve his position. A lot of the drivers diving into the pits there. Mohammed and Lloyd didn't quite manage to improve their position on the track there. Meanwhile, Zainal Hazin in the other Dante's Toyota Motorsports machine, really hustling that car through the infield section here, behind the pits. Now you can see how small the pits are in comparison to a lot of other tracks. This was really at the end of an era where Formula One and World Sports Car Championship used to go to any tracks that met the criteria for entering. After this, the tracks started to become a little bit more prescriptive. The regulations meant that the tracks had to be longer, faster, and had bigger sort of runoff areas. This is sort of like, this track is sort of like a snapshot of when racetracks used to be these sort of small, tight autodromes. But that definitely doesn't take away from Okayama. Very professionally run race circuit indeed, and a very fun one to drive around in. Definitely seems to put up a great race every time we come over here. We've gone through past the halfway point of the race, and as you can see, Afizul Jai, he's taking a secondary lap to try and get up to speed, hence why the 7-minute lap time. He'll be definitely going quicker through here, I'm sure, although he does bail out, so perhaps he might be heading into the pits just to make an adjustment to the sim, or perhaps a adjustment to something else. Saif Orifin this time he's in a works engineering livery car. He is usually a member of Toyota Motorsports, but this time around he's repping one of our sponsors for this race, just to get the car around and into the final two corners there. Definitely a very nice looking car indeed. Nur Hayati Muhammad Saleh, that's my mother, by the way. Hi mom, literally.
Auntie.
And she's literally downstairs at the moment watching it on screen, and it's kind of funny to see a family that used to watch F1 races almost religiously sort of turn, and now I've got my dad and a lot of my family members watching the AIMC races. And throughout the lockdown period, when we didn't know if we were going to have Formula One racing or any sort of racing this year, it was nice to see going into sim racing. And the nice part about sim racing is that it's almost guaranteed to be very, very exciting and entertaining indeed. The cars are identical, even down to the setup, even down to in this case, tire pressures. And it's going to be very, very interesting indeed. We have a first comment from Alif Lam Mim. Hello, Alif. For those of you who want to have a chat with Alif and ourselves, don't be too shy. Leave a comment down below. And whilst you're there, do like the video and share it amongst your friends and spread that sim racing love around. But meanwhile, we're watching Malvinder Singh go through the back, through the infield section of the course, coming up to this final hairpin. Now, these hairpins, they are a lot quicker than they look on TV. They're not as tight as they seem, and they do take a long time to try and get out of. All the corners here are constant radius, very, very punishing on the tyres, and you really do have to make sure that you drive the car as neatly, as tight, and as tidily as you can. But the main thing here is throttle control. You really have to control that throttle as best you can. That was Malvinder Singh, who manages to move himself up into 11th position. Nazmi Mazli, he was going on a quick lap there, but it looks like he's just got a little bit of a stutter. That occasionally happens. We are, of course, an online racing series. Meanwhile, Alif has just commented, nice green mouse pad. That looks like a electronic sort of layout board, isn't it? But yeah.
It's the most effective mouse pad for me to use.
Absolutely. For those of you who are wondering, this is not so much a tip from sim racing, but more a tip from esports in general, especially from all of the guys who do competitive FPS shooters and all the rest of it. When you're looking for a mouse pad, it isn't about the logo that's on it or anything like that. Anything that has a tight grid on it or a very, very tight pattern really does work very well indeed. High contrast as well, because what's underneath your mouse is a camera, a very, very low megapixel camera that helps track everything. So there's a tip that's almost completely tangentially related to what we're doing right now.
Okay, Justin is the last guy to be on track right now. I don't think there's any other. Maybe they are setting up. Maybe they're getting ready just for the final lap or qualifying.
Perhaps there might be one or two drivers that might want to go out there, but it does look to me that a lot of the drivers may have done their quota of laps that they were planning to do. And as we look through there, Alan using that fantastic button box just to scroll through.
Yeah, we've got 1 minute plus time. So usually what administrators do in iRacing is they can speed up this process, but I'm not that familiar yet with that instruction. Maybe next time I'll do a shortcut button for it and place it in one of these.
Perhaps, yeah. That is the thing with lone qualifying, is that it does tend to finish a little bit early. You don't have that last minute gasp for the flag. But in any case, I see that Cheryl Norafuddin has given us a like. That's one of the races that are in the series. So hi there Cheryl. Hope you are having fun in the season so far.
So Cycle had the best time so far was 1:36.51 for pole position. So
yeah.
It will be today will be a 45-minute race to get them acquainted, to get them ready for fuel management.
Absolutely, that's going to be the key thing here, is fuel management. And around this track, it's very, very hard on the tyres. Perhaps some of the drivers might be thinking of changing tyres throughout the race. They might just take that opportunity if they can find the pace in a new fresh set of tyres. But that's why we practice, to learn about these new things. Not only are the drivers out there learning on the track, but we're also learning and improving here in our virtual studio.
They're not on grid yet. Find them.
Perhaps just taking slightly longer to get onto the grid compared to usual.
Where are they?
Meanwhile, thanks to Zaidi Kamarudin for following us. Greatly appreciated. And hope you liked the racing you've seen so far. And hopefully you'll like the racing you'll see in the future. Well, I can see the cars there right now.
There they are.
They were hiding.
Okay.
So the lights have come on to the screen. The safety car has pulled away, and Eddie Adrian is in second place. He is very close to the front of the field. Really, this is a driver that has improved by leaps and bounds. He started sim racing during the MCO period. Just a fan of motorsports, not necessarily a racing driver or anything like that, and he's definitely improved a lot. He's able to mix it up with the sim racing veterans as well as the real life races that we have in the field. But it looks like we have quite a few drivers up in the back there. Ilham, Fairuz, Tugujan and Irshad right at the back of the field there. So this is going to be a very exciting start to the race, as it always is. The lights are on. Saifur if it takes the start, and it's a green flag start. So Saifur if it leads away. He's managed to jump the rest of the field coming into the first corner there. Eddie Adrian is in second position, and in third place is Fizul Jai. A fantastic start from him. Nasbi, Faiz, Haas and Aslan have managed to move up a place there, and Lloyd Lachlan, he is in 8th position, trailing the guys up through there. And in fact, they've actually managed to get themselves back into the order they started with. So that just goes to show the chopping and changing that you're going to see coming into the first corner of the race. Now you can see that Eddie Adrian, he has got a whole train of cars behind him, but Saifur Arifin is up ahead, and it looks like he's going to be pulling away at a massive rate indeed. But Eddie Adrian, he tries to cover the inside, but Fizul Jai is coming around the outside. Now the track switches over, so now Jai is on the inside, and he manages to make an overtaking maneuver work. So now Eddie Adrian is in with the other two Padawan SRC cars, sort of running in team formation at the moment there. But Saifur Arifin, he's managed to take a huge lead going off into first position. Fizul Jai has managed to leapfrog everyone up into second place. Eddie Adrian has dropped down into third position. Faiz is in fourth, Nasbi fifth, Ha in sixth, Lloyd in seventh, Mohaimin in eighth, Afik in ninth, and Aslan in 10th place. Setting the car up beautifully through the final corner there. Lloyd Lachlan will be looking to try and gain as many positions as possible. We know he's a very, very quick driver indeed, a potential podium placing driver. Coming through the first corner there, he's just going to try and close up the gap to Kavanagh up ahead. These two drivers have been mainstays in the AIMC Championship over the course of several races. They've definitely seemed to be ending up in the same piece of track. And it looks like Kavanagh has made a mistake. He's got the cars very, very sideways indeed. We've seen in practice that is a risk indeed. And Lloyd Lachlan has managed to make that overtaking maneuver work, and Mohaimin has followed his teammate up into 7th place. So Lloyd Lachlan is in 6th, followed by Mohaimin and Afik. So that is a few more positions gained. I believe Aslan and Mavinderjit have also made up a position. And now Kavanagh is being challenged by Tengku Jan Lay. the Prince of Drift a lot of experience underneath the right foot of Takujan Lei there. He's already climbed up 8 places. Nice to see the Tedco URT car doing quite well after the start there. 8 places gained for Takujan Lei, definitely showing his immense touring car skill. You can see why Takujan is the factory Proton Works driver, but you can also see the talent that we have, not only with the real world drivers, but with the sim racers battling it out toe to toe on an even keel. So that really goes to show how competitive this series has become. Most of the field is within striking range of each other. You're going to see a lot of close racing happening up ahead. Now you can see Takujan, he's just trying to size up Calvin Ha up ahead. Try and get into a position where he can take that slipstream down the back straight. That is going to be one of the critical overtaking maneuvers here. You can overtake coming onto it, you can overtake part way through it, and you can overtake on the exit. But it looks like Takujan is very, very close to the back of Calvin Ha. Nose to tail, will he be able to take that side draft going down the straight there for sure? Takujan has the inside line if he needs it. Let's see if he can make this overtaking maneuver work. Late on the brakes, he's managed to outbrake Calvin Ha and managed to get himself up into 11th place. So that is an 11th place position for Takujan Lei. Meanwhile, Faiz Aslan is dutifully following Eddie Adrian around the track. 3 Padawan SL3 cars in perfect sort of formation, but that formation might break very soon indeed, because knowing these drivers, first and foremost, they are racing drivers, and Faiz Aslan is one of the quick ones. He's going to try and perhaps ask, cajole, beg, or borrow that 3rd place from Eddie Adrian. He will definitely not try and run away with it too much there, but Eddie Adrian, he's now caught back up with Afizul Jai. Afizul Jai, another drifter, really pushing that Kia Optima as hard as it'll go. Mavinderjit Singh in 10th place. Melvin, as he's known to his friends, is a very experienced iRacing driver, and it looks like he's going to have perhaps an opportunity to try something on this car here, the Padawan SRC machine of Aslan, who's down in 9th position. So this is a Mavinderjit trying to get himself as far up in the top 10 as possible. This would be a really good place to start scoring major points in a championship race. Obviously this is just a practice race, and Melvin really needs to try and get past Aslan as fast as possible, because right behind him is Takujan Lei, who is on a tear trying to climb up as many positions as possible. So Melvin really has to look for that position. You can see how close the cars are getting. The concertina effect is in full force around this track here. You can see from the rear wing, and that little Kia Optima of Takujan Lei is basically being parked right up underneath the rear wing of Melvin. Coming through the final corner, Mavinderjit Singh, he has got to basically drive with one eye on the road, one eye in the rear view mirrors, and one eye on the car ahead. Now, I don't know about you, but that makes very difficult driving indeed. Melvin tries to go around the outside. It looks like he had that chance to pull off a late braking maneuver, but as it turns out, that didn't quite work out in his favor. But one thing that has happened is that Takujan has to drop back just a little bit to make sure that these guys can battle it out safely. Very wise move there from a very experienced racer. Melvin is coming up onto the back straight there. They're going to try and slipstream themselves down the racetrack, and it looks like Aslan is also catching up with Afiq Fadlan, who is up ahead. So they're getting closer and closer to each other as well. This could be a very exciting battle in the midfield, as it always is in the AIMC Championship. For those of you who are wondering, Saiful Arifin is still in the lead by 2.9 seconds ahead of Afizul Jai, with the 3 Padawan cars behind them. Eddie Adrian still in 3rd place, followed by Faiz, Nazmi, Lloyd, Muhaimin, Afik, Aslan, Malvinajit, Tunku Jan there, and Calvin Hart in 12th place. Meanwhile, another name that will be familiar to all of you AIMC fans, Taufik Tahir, has liked the stream, so thanks Taufik for that, and you're absolutely more than welcome to join in on the fun. I understand he had some prior commitments, so hopefully we'll see him for the future races. But meanwhile, Tinku Ershad is in 17th position. He was very, very quick in terms of 1 lap pace, but not too sure why he's that far back. Could it be that he's started back here on purpose, just to try and get a little bit of experience in wheel-to-wheel, nose-to-tail racing? Meanwhile, Taufik Tahir gives us the answer to the question of why he isn't there. Balik kampung, haha. You have to say there's not a lot of things more important than getting back to your hometown when you do have a chance. Also, another familiar name up there that's like the stream, Muhammad Azni, as a driver has fallen off the road there. That looks like Jasri Junos that's gone off the track there. Very, very unfortunate. It's very easy to find yourself outbraking yourself coming into the track there, so that's a real pity for Jasri Junos. He was doing quite well. Unfortunately, he's dropped down 4 places. Ashraf Nasli is in a very, very very uncomfortable situation there.
I call this a Dante sandwich.
Sorry?
A Dante sandwich.
Apparently they do very, very good sandwiches there, and a whole bunch of other stuff. An Italian fusion restaurant, for those of you who are not in the know, and perhaps they're just using some of their culinary skills in their racing, but as well as he wouldn't want to be in the meat in that sandwich for that much longer. But well spotted there. Meanwhile, Tunku-chan has gained 9 places and he has come to the back of this field. Believe it or not, even though Tunku-chan is in 11th place, this is the battle for 7th position. So that is a handful of cars there, all battling to try and get into the top 8 positions. So 5 cars all within about roughly 3 seconds of each other, chopping and changing positions there, and Aslan's managed to get through on the side of Malvinderjit Singh. They're side by side going into the infield section there, and that has opened the door just a little bit for Tukujan, but Melvin manages to slam the door in the face of that Kia, and it looks like this is going to be a real thinking man's battle, positioning the car on the road in order to try and prevent the overtaking maneuver, taking the inside line, perhaps braking on the inside line. That is going to be the thing that really is going to set everyone apart during this race. Hazan Azni there, just commenting, Taufik Tahir, damn. Wow. Meanwhile, Tunku Irshad is chasing up the back of Azrael Nazli. It looks like Shahril Norafuddin has managed to pull off some sort of a lead on Azrael, but Tunku Irshad won't be hanging back too long. It looks like Tunku Irshad may have been attempting a last to first sort of race there, which is an interesting exercise to do when you're in sim racing, just to try and see how good your overtaking skills are. But Tunku Irshad, so far on his scorecard, he's managed 4 overtaking maneuvers there. He could be lining up for one down here. Goes for a look a little bit half-heartedly, but he decides not to go for it, perhaps deciding that discretion is the better part of valor. Diving through the corners there. And it looks like Taguasha has a slight pace advantage. He's still lapping in the 139s. Fikri Ismail has liked the stream. Hi Fikri, thanks for liking the stream. Hope you enjoy the content right now. But meanwhile, these drivers definitely getting closer and closer together. And look, there is another car up behind Tuku Ershad, Ilham Labi, and now this man I know likes to start from the back in these warm-up races just to give himself that extra challenge, and it always brings a smile to my face when I see that man come up through from the back of the field. But for those of you who don't know, Ilham Labi, experienced racer here at iRacing. He's been with racing on this platform, on this service, since 2008. And he's lining himself up to join in this battle for 15th position, or 14th position. And Zainal Hazem isn't too far away. Mama Azam there just commenting, track ni susah nak overtake pakai Kia. Ya betul. The trick with trying to overtake here is that especially in these rather large cars, it is a very small track. It was one of the smallest tracks on the Formula 1 calendar when it was introduced. That's why they only raced there for 2 years. And you can imagine how difficult it is. You can see how tight the track is at the apex of the corners, and really you have to be very, very careful when you try and go for those overtaking maneuvers. But it looks like Tuku Ershad has managed to get himself up into 11th position. Azrael is right behind him still. And the more these two battle, the more Ilham Halabi is able to catch up with them, so they might be in a position where they might be giving Ilham Halabi some ideas coming up to the end of the lap here. And Calvin Ha up ahead in 10th position. He is not really too far away. He can't really breathe easy at the moment as all the drivers come onto the start-finish straight there. Ilham Halabi is slipstreaming his way. He might be going for an overtaking maneuver at the end of this straight. Calvin Ha still motoring along through there. This has only been 15 minutes out of 45-minute race. Another half an hour to go before the end of the race here. Now, we're not too sure, I'm not too convinced that a two-stopper would work around here. Most of the drivers will be going on a one-stop strategy when it comes to their pits. But it will be very interesting to see what happens next and see if anybody does take this opportunity to try a two-stop strategy. But that is the beauty with sim racing. Not only do you have practice sessions just like you do at the real-life racetrack, but you also have practice races. So for all of you guys who are still on the edge of your seats, believe it or not, this is just practice. The championship race, by the way, the qualifying and the race will be at 10 p.m. on the 23rd of August 2020. We will be going live around 9:30. And yeah, it's promising to be a very, very exciting race indeed. So do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact for that this Sunday. But this Saturday we also have a very, very special race indeed. The Merdeka SG55 National Day Special is on as well. It's a GT3 race around the majestic Suzuka circuit, so we're still staying in Japan for that one. Not too far to fly for these guys to head over there. It'll be an interesting, friendly battle between the SRE community based here in Malaysia. Malaysia, of course, celebrating its Merdeka Day, that is the Independence Day of Malaysia, and also with the SRA community down in Singapore, and they are also celebrating, or they have just celebrated the SG55 National Day, and they've just had those celebrations up there. So this is really just a chance to sort of bring two communities together. That's going to be an absolutely exciting race indeed. I'll be joined by Chan Wei Han as usual, and that will be on Saturday at the usual time. Servers open at 9 and racing starting at 10 p.m. So do stay tuned to Adrenaline Impact. We have a lot of content coming your way. Pretty much content every day at this point, isn't it?
Yeah, I think Calvin Haas trying to preserve fuel, and he's gonna have to take it that the lower lap times, the longer lap times will cause damage to his position.
Yeah, it looks to be the case right now. Kevin Ha definitely not driving as fast as he normally would be. Perhaps he's just bottling up these guys as long as possible, more to hurt their pit lane strategy. Because remember, these cars, we do artificially limit the amount of fuel that's given to them. They only have 50% of the normal fuel capacity. These cars usually run in endurance races after all. But we limited their fuel capacity in order to try and force them into a mandatory pit stop. Nevertheless, it is in the regulations that it is a mandatory pit stop race in the AIMC with these cars. So that really sort of adds a bit of spice, a bit of a layer of tactics and strategy into the race as well. So this isn't just about planting that right foot and pushing the car as hard as it'll go. There are other factors to worry about. Fuel consumption, which around here I suspect most of the drivers will be thinking of a one-stop strategy, but also tire wear. Tire wear around here is fairly high. The cars do like to slide around a little bit, and especially in the front-wheel drive cars, the sort of constant radius, very long corners do tend to take a little bit of life out of the front tires. So will they go for any sort of tire change? Meanwhile, as I take a sip out of this drink here.
What are you drinking tonight, Matt?
Sorry?
What are you having tonight?
Oh yeah, for those of you who are wondering, again, series of Max drinking different drinks every time he comes on stream. I am drinking a Monster Energy.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's sugar heaven for you.
Oh yeah, just need to bump myself up.
Okay, what color is your Monster Energy today?
This is the standard black.
Okay.
I'm fairly boring this time around, but perhaps if I get a little bit overexcited, I might move to the sugar-free one, which comes in a nice white can, if I recall correctly. So yeah, look out for that. I might even start asking guys down in chat to guess what I'm drinking throughout the race. So that might be another thing to look out for. But speaking of things on our desk, Azam Asni just ask you there, what happened to Nazmi? Nazmi Masli is in the pits. There is that his bonnet is off, so it looks like he's had a bit of damage. So we'll have a look at the replay there. He's just clipped the curb, perhaps pushing the car very, very hard indeed, and it looks like he went off the road there.
Yeah.
So we're just gonna wind it back up a bit. Hard on the brakes. He's just managed to, I think, miss his braking point there, and once he missed the braking point there, it could be a very, very hard accident indeed for Nazmi Masli there. So that's very, very unfortunate for him, and well spotted, Mohammad Azam. Thanks a lot for pointing that out. Meanwhile, how's that rather fancy broadcast box from Oregon Engineering working out? I see it's did quite a good job with the replay.
Yeah, so far so good. So maybe I'm gonna be fine-tuning in the program side with Farid. So as you guys who don't know, Amir Farigian is the owner of Oregon Engineering. He does lots of stuff. Oh, there goes an overtake.
Tikku Janli carving up through the field there. Last time we joined him, he was out just outside of the top 10. Now he is in 5th position, so maybe we might see a bit of a fight up through the track. And we have a comment from Nazmi Mazli there. Steering disconnected. Ooh. That is going to be...
That's a nightmare.
That is an absolute nightmare indeed. Big oof to Nazmi Mazli there, and well, hopefully you'll get that sorted out in time for the warm-up race and the championship race this Sunday.
Okay, they are going for their pits. Halfway point.
Absolutely, they've not only all decided that the halfway point of the race is going to be the perfect time for a pit, and it looks like one of the cars have rolled over in the pits. Wow, just clipped the side of the... That was Azrael Nasli who's just clipped the side of the stall. He looks like the car is drivable, but that looked very, very weird indeed. For those of you who are wondering, in the pits here on iRacing, the cars are ghosted as they go through the pits there, but as anybody who's raced in iRacing would know, ghosting sometimes plays tricks on you.
Jan continues on in 5th.
Absolutely, he's managed to do a fantastic... he's managed to get his pit timing just about right there, and he's now up into 5th position, and if he can push hard through the next couple of laps, he might have a chance of making up some more positions, as the top 4, Saiful, Jai, Adrian and Ilham, have not pitted yet. But just as I say that, Saiful Arifin and Afizul Jai dive into the pits. Let's see if Eddie Adrian and Ilham Halabi follow them in, or do they go out for another lap? I believe no. Eddie Adrian decides to come into the pits, and I think we'll see Ilham Halabi, although he might go out for another lap, we're not too sure. But Tinku Jan is 1.1 kilometers away. He is basically around the back of the pits right now. So on the right hand side of your screen, as this car comes through there, those containers and those buildings on the right hand, that's where all the pits are going, on the left hand side now. And Tinku Jan Lei is just passing the back of the pits there, so he's got another 4 or 5 more corners to go before he can get through. The cars are still stationary. Tinku Jan is...
That previous turn reminds me of turn 9 of Sepang.
Absolutely, it does, doesn't it? And it looks like Tinku Jan Lei is coming back into the pits.
Oh no, maybe he's miscalculated his fuel.
That is disastrous for Tinku Jan. It looked like he was able to claim... He would have been able to claim the lead, it looks like, but perhaps the fuel consumption rate here a little bit higher than what the drivers were expecting. But so far, if he manages to get out, will he be in the lead? Yes, he will be. So Saifur Arifin claims the lead. Afizul Jai comes out in 2nd position. Afiq Fadlan just not quite close enough to try and get into 2nd position. He has to settle for 3rd place. Although I'm not too sure if Afiq has pitted yet. Yeah, he has. So that's fantastic from Afiq Fadlan. He's managed to make up quite a lot of places. He's 7 places higher than he started the race with. So he's definitely had a lot of improvements going into, or coming out of the pit cycle. But it looks like the top 10 is Saiful Arifin, Afizul Jai, Afiq Fadlan, Eddie Ilham Halabi, Lloyd Lachlan, Tuku Irshad, followed by Faiz, Kavin Hah there, and Sharil in 10th place. Tuku Irshad, he is pushing very hard to try and get onto the tail end of Lloyd Lachlan, but Lloyd Lachlan is pushing just as hard to try and stay on terms with that man Ilham Halabi. Ilham, a very, very quick driver indeed, so these drivers will try their hardest to get past each other. All 3 of these drivers proving themselves to be very, very quick indeed, but it might take quite a lot of effort to try and overtake Ilham Halabi. Pushing as hard as they can, going through the track here, diving into the braking zones. Being very, very careful on the curbs here as well, because if you do use too much of the curbs, you could start wheel spinning, which will really wear out the tires quite quickly if you do that too often. The curbs here, not a problem for these cars to take, as well as the curbs up ahead here. Takura taking as much of the curbs as he can. You have to use all of the curbs coming out of the exit, coming onto the front straight here. Let's see if Takura can draft up a little bit closer to Lloyd Lachlan. He's definitely starting to feel a little bit of the slipstream effect coming into play right now. Azam Azli there. Come on, Faiz, stay behind Prince of Drift, Lama Sikit. So Faiz, right now he's actually behind Tengku Irshad, but he was behind Tengku Jan earlier on. It looks like due to the pit stop error, Faiz will now be trying to catch up with this battle between Tengku Irshad and Lloyd Lachlan. Coming down the back straight here, this will be a prime opportunity to try and really close up the gap. Will they do anything on the braking zone? No, Tengku Irshad decides to try and follow a little bit more. Very, very different driving styles going through that corner there. Tengku Irshad likes to take that corner in a very square approach, as we like to say, really squaring off the entry and exit of the corner there, perhaps trying to keep those front tyres as straight for as long as possible, whilst Lloyd Lachlan has a slightly more flowy racing line going through there. But it looks like they're still very, very equally matched indeed. But Tengku Irshad, he's gone up 12 positions since the start of the race. No mean feat for those drivers. Afizul Jai has gone into the pits. Yeah, I believe this is the second time Afizul Jai has come into the pits there, so he must have had a bit of a problem somewhere.
Enjoy.
Let's just hear some action on the radio. Nothing much.
The drivers perhaps operating a little bit of radio silence, just pushing as hard as they can to try and get up into position. But underneath the minimap you will see the radio icons come up. I will keep quiet, and after that Karo Alang, who's got the radio scanner up there in the TV van, or the virtual TV van, he'll let us know as to what's going on in the radios. But you guys will be able to hear it loud and clear back home, so that'll be very, very interesting indeed to listen into the conversations that the drivers are having, not only with their teammates but with other drivers as well. That's the other unique thing with iRacing. They're able to communicate car to car, and that is mostly for a safety reason, so they're able to communicate around. Of course, in sim racing you don't quite have the peripheral vision or the situational awareness that you would normally have in a real life motor race. So they have each driver has a spotter, an AI spotter that will help point out the cars around them, as well as a radio in case they really need to call it. And speaking of situational awareness there, Aslan Manab and Calvin Ha have a little bit of an incident. Aslan has to give up that place, and it looks like Zairo Hazim has taken the opportunity to overtake that Padawan car there. So a very disastrous incident for Aslan Manab. He had to back off, try and give position back to Calvin Ha and avoid a penalty, but it looks like he is able to avoid that this time around. But Aslan Manab, he is 5 places down from where he started, and he's trying his hardest to get back up into position. But now a few corners have cleared and they'll be battling up once again. Afid Fadlan doing very well for himself to be up in second position, but it looks like Eddie Adrian will be challenging him for that second place. They're both side by side going around the hairpin, and that is an absolutely surgical move by Eddie Adrian, parking the car in the apex, leaving Afik with no other option but to yield the position. That is fantastic, good clean racing from Eddie Adrian, and he's back up into the second place that he started the race with. So Eddie Adrian will be very, very happy with that, and now he's got to put his head down and try, if at all possible, to catch the man up ahead, Saiful Arifin. I don't know about you, but this race has turned out to be very, very exciting indeed. This bodes well for the AIMC Championship race on Sunday, as well as the warm-up race when all The majority of the drivers will be in the session. We only have basically about half of what we usually have, or a little bit less than half of the drivers that we normally have in this race, and it's already turning out to be very, very exciting indeed.
Yeah, I'm glad there is no major incidents today, and yeah, maybe this just proves traffic sometimes play a big role in yeah in race cleanliness, I guess. But uh, lastly, it's up to the drivers also.
Absolutely. Although the priority when it comes to lapping traffic or dealing with slow drivers is definitely to the faster driver, but the drivers do have to sort of, I guess, realize that they have to get by cleanly, because you're not going to be gaining that much places in the gravel trap. And most of the drivers have been quite relatively good with that sort of stuff. And overall, I'd say we've had quite a lot of clean racing throughout this season. Takuya there pushing quite hard, following Lloyd Lachlan coming up through the last two corners there. And it's very, very critical to try and get these two corners just right. But Takuya, very, very impressive to have gained 13 positions since the start of the race. He's now up into 6th place and up into the really high points paying position. If this was a championship race, he would be quite happy with that indeed. But when it comes to practicing, he want to try and engage with Lloyd Lachlan. Another thing that's very useful with these practice sessions and practice races, as well as the warm-up races, that you really do learn about the competitors around you. You learn about how each of the drivers drive, who's going to be very aggressive, who's going to give you the space, and who isn't. And that is critical information coming into a points-paying championship race. You really do have to make sure that you sort of have at least a basic understanding of the drivers that you are racing with. So perhaps Takuya has benefited himself quite a lot by driving from the back of the field. It did look to me, though, that having looked at the evidence in front of me, I'm no judge, but it looked like Takuya did start from the back on purpose, just to try and have some wheel-to-wheel combat with as many drivers. Coming to the replay there, and Muhammad Mohamed, beautiful overtaking maneuver, but unfortunately there was a crash.
Caution, yellow flag.
This is a yellow flag.
That is a yellow flag incident for sure. It looked like Mohamed there just he had the right idea coming into the braking zone there, but unfortunately there was a crash up ahead and Mohamed just couldn't slow down in time. Now you can hear the drivers.
Okay.
What an incident.
Yeah, we're listening to the radio.
Sorry guys.
So they're apologizing to each other. There's a good
Aku break pun tak tahu nak pergi mana.
Mervyn Digit was apologizing to everyone.
Well, I mean, there was no harm, there was no malice intended in that move, I am sure. It just was one of those situations where if it was two drivers all alone on the track, I think both drivers would have been able to get out of the way without even a local yellow. But because there were so many drivers directly behind them, unfortunately it ended up being a very messy incident indeed. But that is racing. Sometimes stuff happens and you get into situations where you simply can't avoid it.
Okay, just meantime, while this FCY is going, what I did is I threw the flag within using the box with this button which I programmed for full course yellow. It's not only me. Usually in the race day, Paduka will be accessing this feature and I will be assisting him also if he were to miss anything, and I will be assisting there. And it's it's something great for a great tool for easing up the task in race organizing, race direction.
Absolutely, that broadcast box looks to be a lot more definitely useful, not just for broadcasting, but for race organizing. Perhaps if you do a lot of stewarding in iRacing, this could be a very useful feature because you can use it's a fairly function-filled box, shall we say, and yeah, it looks to be a very helpful tool.
Jasri, tekan minyak sikit Jasri.
Minyak pun nak habis.
Minyak dah nak habis, they said.
Perhaps they should have paid the man at the 76 petrol station that's inside the track a little bit more money to try and fill that tank up just a little bit more. Then again, maybe the debit cards sort of run out of money. But right now the drivers are going to be behind the safety car, and this sets up a very, very exciting end to the race because Eddie Adrian had a really hard time trying to catch up with Saif Arifin, but now the safety car has done that work for him. All the drivers are going to bunch up behind the safety car now. For the restart, we have 3 drivers who are about 500-600 meters away.
What is it?
Saif Arifin perhaps asking the man in the Porsche
Okay,
911 to
slow down.
perhaps speed up just ever so slightly. Shades of Senna asking the
Relax,
safety car
relax.
to hurry up there just a little bit. But this Porsche 911, I believe it's actually a mod or a modification of
Lagi sikit
the
nak masuk
Carrera
pit
Cup cars or the 911 GT3 Cup. If you wanted to know the specific model, they removed the rear wing. It's still a race car. Most safety cars are road cars, but this one's just a little bit different. So Muhammad Azni, he says, "Ui, dengan Ilham lagi baik ni." Yeah. This is going to be a very exciting end to the race. So far, Saif Arifin is in first position. Eddie Adrian will be in second. Ilham in third. Jasri, Mavinajit and Muhaimin have gone into the pits in order to try and top up a little bit more fuel and perhaps